Standard 7, personal property appraisal development. In developing a personal property appraisal, an appraiser must identify the problem to be solved, determine the scope of work necessary to solve the problem, and correctly complete research analysis necessary to produce a credible appraisal. Standards Rule 7.1, similar to the requirements of Standards Rule 1.1, in developing a personal property appraisal, an appraiser must be aware of, understand, and correctly employ those recognized methods and techniques that are necessary to produce a credible appraisal. Not commit a substantial error of omission or commission that significantly affects an appraisal, and not render appraisal services in a careless or negligent manner. Standards Rule 7.2, in developing a personal property appraisal, when necessary for credible assignment results, an appraiser must identify the client and other intended users, identify the intended use of the appraiser's opinions and conclusions, identify the type and definition of value, identify the effective date of the appraiser's opinions and conclusions, identify the characteristics of the property that are relevant to the type and definition of value and intended use of the appraisal, identify any extraordinary assumptions necessary in the assignment, identify any hypothetical conditions necessary in the assignment, and determine the scope of work necessary to produce credible assignment results in accordance with the scope of work rule. Standards Rule 7.3, in developing a personal property appraisal, when necessary for credible assignment results, an appraiser must analyze the property's current use and alternative uses, analyze the subject property within the correct market context, analyze the relevant economic conditions that exist on the effective date of the valuation. Standards Rule 7.4, in developing personal property appraisal, an appraiser must collect, verify, and analyze all information necessary for credible results. When a sales comparison approach is necessary, an appraiser must analyze such comparable sales data as are available to the an appraiser must analyze such comparable sales data as are available to indicate a value conclusion. When a cost approach is necessary for credible assignment results, an appraiser must analyze comparable cost data to estimate the cost new of the property, and analyze comparable data to estimate the difference between cost new and the present worth of the property. When an income approach is necessary, an appraiser must analyze comparable data to estimate the market income of the property, analyze comparable operating expense data to estimate the operating expenses of the property, analyze comparable data to estimate rates of capitalization and or discount rates, and base projections of future income and expenses on reasonably clear and appropriate evidence. When developing an opinion of the value of a leased or encumbered property, an appraiser must analyze the effect on value, if any, of the terms and conditions of the leases or encumbrances. When appraising multiple objects, the appraiser must consider the value of the individual assets to the assignment results. When analyzing the assemblage of the various component parts of a property, an appraiser must analyze the effect on value of the assemblage. When analyzing the anticipated modifications to the subject property, an appraiser must analyze the effect on value of such modifications to the extent that they are reflected in market actions. When a real property or intangible items are included in the appraisal, an appraiser must analyze the effect on value of such non-personal property items. Standards Rule 7.5. When developing credible assignment results, an appraiser must, if such information is available to the appraiser in the normal course of business, analyze prior sales that occurred within a reasonable and applicable time period given the intended use for the type of property involved, analyze agreements of sale, validated offers or third-party offers to sell, options or listings of the subject property current as of the effective date of the appraisal. Standards Rule 7.6. In developing a personal property appraisal, an appraiser must reconcile the quality and quantity of data available and analyzed with the approaches used, and reconcile the applicability or suitability of approaches used to arrive at the value conclusions. I bit my tongue. The value conclusion is the result of the appraiser's judgment and not necessarily the result of a mathematical process.